Hi everyone, my apologies for the sound quality. I am midway through editing this and I realized that we discuss a lot of content that may be triggering to certain listeners. We are a horror literature podcast, so we hope our listeners will come in knowing that we will discuss some scary content, but we also want to make sure that we let you know if we ever discuss something more sensitive. In this episode, we do mention sexual assault, attempted rape, incest, and suicide. If any of this makes you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to skip this episode. Other than that, on with the show.
Bienvenidos a Darkly Lit. Camina con nosotros por esta casa, donde manchas negras bailan sobre las paredes y donde tus sueños se mezclan con las memorias de los sacrificados. Yo soy el dueño de esta casa, el malvado Sade, y conmigo les presento el caballero David King.
You know, I hear Howard Doyle is a fun guy.
Y la dama Kayla King.
It's no good telling tales without a drink. Yeah!
Woo! Perfect.
Yeah.
I got the last of my mango nada that's melted, but that's fine with me.
Woo! Beautiful. What a great way to get this ball of fungus rolling, huh?
Oh my goodness. I am super stoked to talk about this. I
am too.
So enjoyed this book. It is my favorite for this year now. I mean, like, Black Tom was good. We love it. Yes, but I guess
Holy
maybe because,
shit.
like, I don't know. This had everything. Okay, this had everything but one thing for me.
Yeah, well,
I think we know what that one thing is.
Yes.
But.
But yes, let's get into this.
Okay, so we just read Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. And I want to say a couple months ago on Twitter, I had written, oh my God, this is probably the best book I've read this year. It's so amazing. And I'm glad that my fellow Darkly Lit members, or companions, were willing to read this with me. And I'm so glad you guys liked it. Because I was like, oh, what if they hated it? What if they're like, Kayla, what's wrong with you? This is weird. But this, I'm so excited to talk about this because I wanted to geek out about this so badly. But I'll give the summary.
Hopefully you all read it along with us, because I should go without saying, major spoilers ahead. Please do not follow this unless you've read it. I mean it.
Please go read it. Go read it first and come back. Take as much time as you need, but really, please. There's like a few books that we've said we're like, please just go read it. This is one of them. Go read it.
I like stop.
We really mean it for this.
Stop the podcast right now.
If you haven't read it. Go read it.
Like,
I promise you, it feels like it might be a lengthy read, but the book will suck you in and it won't let you go.
It goes by so quickly because you just want to keep reading more and more. Anyway, so okay, everyone.
Last warning, go read it.
Okay, we're good.
Everyone read it? Everyone ready?
We're good? Okay.
We're good.
Good job.
Okay.
We're so glad you read it.
Okay, so the novel is set in 1950s Mexico, and we follow our protagonist, Noemi Taboada. I'm probably butchering.
Taboada?
I think it's Taboada. She's a rich socialite and likes to go to parties, enjoys flirting. She's a bit flighty and keeps changing what she wants to do, but currently wants to get her master's in anthropology. I love her as a character, but we will get into that later. So she's brought home early from a party because her father receives this letter from her cousin, Catalina, that's extremely frantic and is basically a lot of rambling and stating like the house is trying to get her and requests specifically that Noemi comes to the house that she's at with her new husband and check in on her. So that's what Noemi does. She arrives at what's known as High Place, which is an English manor in the Mexican countryside town of El Trifuno. It's there she meets Catalina's husband, Virgil Doyle, and his weird family Jeez. Which includes his very old mummy-like father, Howard. His, I believe it's his cousin, Florence. And then Florence's son, who is not like the other Doyles. He's actually a very nice and kind individual named Francis. Along the way, Noemi starts to notice some weird things about this mansion. She has nightmares. Catalina is saying the walls are closing in, that there's something not right with this house. And eventually Noemi comes to discover that this family is basically cursed due to a fungus which is known as the gloom, that she has seen all over the house, that she has thought is just spores or mold. But it turns out it's there for a purpose. So it's what's keeping them living long, or specifically Howard living long, for years and years. And it just leads into a whole mess of craziness. And oh boy, the thing is, if I go too much into it, that leaves the discussion. There's a lot of details here. So just know that Noemi really gets trapped in basically a horror film.
And it's up to her to use her latent abilities, and maybe some she didn't know she had, to kind of save herself, Catalina, and get to the bottom of this creepy mystery.
Yeah. So, oh boy, we've already confirmed that this book is amazing.
Yeah. This is, what's great is earlier this year, we read The Ballad of Black Tom, and here's Victor Laval, the author, with praise right on the front cover. Masterful, a gloriously moody adventure, spooky, smart, and wry. So that's already a good sign.
I didn't realize he had commented on the book, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. The interconnection there is a nice touch.
We actually bought the book. We got a hard copy, and
it is on my list of I need a hard copy.
I need
a physical copy, because I listened to the Kindle audio version, and which was nice, which is very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But I want a physical copy. Maybe I will press some flowers in it or something.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We get some spore prints in there.
Oh my god.
Okay. I want to talk about the characters.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, actually, that's important, because not only do we have a bunch of characters, we have a really complicated family tree we're going to have to talk about at some point.
I was just explaining to say that last night, David and I were like, okay, who's connected where? We're trying to figure out this family tree of the Doyles, because it's a messed up family tree. So,
but starting with Noemi, immediately strong female lead. It's just okay. I was excited to read this because I haven't read a lot of books from Hispanic authors or Latinx authors, and we really enjoyed, what was it, 5 Nights? No.
5 Midnights.
5 Minutes.
5 Midnights. So that was okay, I need to read more from Hispanic authors. So I'm glad that we chose this, and just having that strong female Latina lead was super nice.
Mm-hmm.
I need more of that in my life, and I'm going to pursue that more. And Noemi is definitely ideal in that. So, because she knows what she wants for the most part.
She knows what she wants enough to give her some agency and not have her be completely flighty. But you have some of the flightier elements. I think one thing I really like about her is you say she's there's that classic strong female character kind of idea. But what I like about her is she's still pretty distinctly feminine through the whole thing.
Well, you hear her traits, she's a socialite. She likes to wear dresses. She
cares a lot about fashion.
She cares about her looks. She likes to go to parties. She flirts with boys. You hear that and you don't automatically think, oh, strong female character. But she absolutely is.
In a sense, you could say that her feminine traits is what makes her come across so strong.
Mm-hmm.
She takes great pride in her knowledge, in her love of fashion, and in the way she knows how to socialize as a proper lady.
Oh, yeah. What's great is throughout the novel, she uses those skills to get places. When she's going into town and she needs to have a conversation with Dr. Camarillo, and
when she pretends that she's going to start crying.
That's right.
I loved it. I was yes.
Please.
Oh my god, she's great. She's great. But also Francis is my boy. Like, the second they start describing him, I'm like, oh man, this pale ass lanky boy, he is mine. I love him already. And just every time he comes in and opens his damn mouth, just like anything, I'm just like, I love this guy. I love him. I love him. I so thought he was going to like die or like sacrifice himself to like help Noemi get out. And I was like, shit, if like, because early on I was like, what if Howard takes over Francis instead? And like as soon as I knew some shit was going on like that, as soon as that like reveal came, I was like, oh no, please don't take Francis from me.
But he doesn't. I'm so grateful. Like, actually, throughout, I'm like, oh god, Francis better not be evil. I swear to God, if Francis is evil, I'm gonna be so pissed.
No, it was very important that we have a sympathetic Doyle, and Francis is a great. I like Francis a lot. Francis is fantastic, and we needed someone on the inside. Like, just from a narrative standpoint, we need someone on the inside to be like Noemi's guide in a way, and I liked that. By the end of it, like he just kept proving himself, and I liked how she kept kind of comparing, like, well, he's not like attractive in the classic sense, but I kind of like just how honest he is in kind of a doofy way. And then over time, that just becomes more and more like he just becomes more and more endearing, and it's wonderful.
Interestingly enough, I read I've been reading like tweets by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, because my god, her Twitter account is amazing. But she'll actually add in details here and there about like from the book. And one of the things she said is she says Francis isn't necessarily unattractive. You just got to remember that Noemi is so accustomed to these pretty boys that she doesn't really understand.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is like, from Noemi's perspective, he's not like classically attractive.
Exactly. But
she finds a beauty in him. In her, she sees a beauty in him.
When we get details about Francis, he's often being compared to Virgil, who is like a fucking Adonis, apparently.
Yeah.
So, beside Virgil, poor Francis who's got probably more of a natural attractiveness. Is not going to look as good as he probably is.
Virgil's got like that Playboy ankle.
Yes.
And they definitely play that up and how awful that ends up being. But we'll get to Virgil. But
one of the interesting things though with like Virgil, because there's moments where he does talk and you think to yourself, oh, he is kind of sympathetic. Like there's moments where he speaks and you're like, oh, he kind of gets it.
More like he knows how to play that role. Like he is 100% manipulative and like calculated, and like those are usually the type of characters that I really enjoy playing when I type out roleplay games with my friend. And like, so like immediately Virgil, I was also like, I totally get you. I don't trust you ever, never, not a single fucking word out of your mouth. I don't trust you because I know you.
No, and that's the thing. Like the great part is he is manipulative, but he's a good manipulator.
Like his betrayal to Howard, like he was like, oh no, I wanted you to fuck up Howard. I was like, yes, I saw that. Yeah, I know you.
It's funny. It's such Machiavellian, like, proper scheming. He's like, oh no, this is all going according to plan. He's got that like cocky, like, oh yeah, I like, the Voltaire song, When You're Evil.
Yes.
This is
I'm the fly in your suit. I'm the pillow in your shoe. Yes.
He really does play up like the just utter, like the predator wolf in sheep's clothing, but except not really, because there's the wolf head clearly sticking out. Like, honestly, like
there's moments I was almost kind of like, oh shit, like he's actually saying phrases that do seem genuine, and you're like, and there's a part of me that's like, am I being played? Like, is he like? I was so sure that I had pinned him as like a Playboy manipulator, but then he would say stuff, and I'm like, maybe I'm being too harsh on him.
That's great. No, that's such a good that's such a good bit of the writing too. Is you really don't know. You keep second guessing yourself with Virgil, and that's exactly what he wants,
And that makes sense, like, because Catalina is married to Virgil, and she married him very quickly.
Yeah, we never do find out about Catalina's previous lover, the one that she was apparently very into before he kind of got chased off.
Yeah.
They talk about that a little bit in the book.
But then she meets Virgil, and not long after, they are engaged and they get married. But it makes sense in a weird way. Like, he's such a charmer, and he's good at it. So it would make sense why she would be charmed by him so quickly.
And, it's like that. It's like, again, it makes sense in the book because they talk about how it talks about how Catalina is a very kind of like, or at least from Noemi's perspective, very kind of head in the clouds, storybook, fairy tale, Gothic novel. They mentioned the fact that the writings of the Bronte sisters keep getting brought up. I'm like, oh my God. We were talking about books that feel like very close comparisons in a lot of ways, or as inspirations. And I think we settle on Jane Eyre a little bit. Like there's elements of Jane Eyre. Like there's definitely some Bronte Gothic elements to this story. So, which is a good thing. Even though Jane Eyre is ridiculous.
Also, there clearly some reference from the Yellow Wallpaper.
Yeah. Oh my God, they brought up the rest cure. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's Charlotte Perkins Gilman? She's rolling in her grave right now.
She's not rolling in her grave.
No, I mean like.
She's more like punching her fist through the grave right now.
That's fair.
And then Howard. Oh, Howard.
Howard is just goddamn terrifying. Like, just the description of every time, like. I feel like his description, like physical description, shifts every time we see him.
Yeah,
it just gets worse and worse, and it's like he made my skin crawl.
Oh, like immediately as he was described, I'm like, I'm gonna hate this man.
Well, the very first thing he does is he starts talking about eugenics, and like that's. I mean, not even describing his appearance, but the very first thing he does is talk about eugenics, and you're like, oh shit. Here's where things are going to get fucked.
It's like in that first introduction of him, you realize just how disgusting and like rotten he is on the inside. And then like gradually throughout the story, the like exterior of him like reflects that.
He's a decaying mushroom.
Ew.
Think of it. Like he grows from decay and then he himself slowly decays over the book. It's like,
he is a disgusting man.
It's so disgusting. I mean, it gets worse.
Who do you think is like a worse villain between Virgil and Howard? Because they're very much like part of each other, like almost literally because of the gloom. But they like present different threats.
Virgil is very much chip off the old block in a lot of ways.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, because all he wants to do is like the only difference between Virgil and Howard is that Howard's a little bit stuck in the past and stuck in this like eugenics idea, and then Virgil's like, nah, I'm just gonna have children, have these two produce lots and lots of children for me to eventually possess. And I'm like, blood's not as much of an issue. I'm like, still fucking creepy. It's awful, terrible.
I think Howard is worse, but that's because it's been recalled he's like about 300 years old due to the gloom. So he's been doing this bullshit and gross things for a very long time.
You know what's a realization too? This is probably not even his first body.
Oh, of course not. It is. I don't believe
like Howard Doyle is a Doyle that the original Doyle, the one that found the fungus in the first place, the one that basically killed those cultists, hermits, the religious order that was actually using the mushrooms for, not exploitative purposes per se. They, that Doyle is never referred to as Howard Doyle. That's just Doyle. And then that one eventually becomes Howard Doyle. And then, it
just gets worse and worse.
You know what? I had an observation, since I know we're going to start talking about the family tree a little bit here. And like Howard Doyle is the obvious, like, as time goes on, he becomes the obvious monster, whereas Virgil is a little bit more of like, he's the monster that you have to kind of get to know, and he's almost a little bit more insidious because he is not the most apparent threat, at least not until later. Howard is the thing that's repulsive and you avoid, but Virgil has this like allure to him, especially for Noemi. And it's also coupled with the fact that the allure has the danger attached to it, with him just being like, nah, basically I'm just gonna manipulate you. And it's terrible. I don't even want to say. But one of the reasons I think Francis is not such a terrible person, and this is because and he's able to kind of break away from things a little bit more, is he's not, all the other Doyles are inbred. I mean, let's get that right out. All the other Doyles are pretty much inbred.
So the weird thing about the gloom is the fact that in order for it to work properly, it attaches itself to a bloodline. And when it gets used to that bloodline, it likes to stick with that specific bloodline. So in order to keep it being as strong as possible, Howard basically fucks his sisters and has children with them.
Was it specifically that it had to be that bloodline, or did Howard introduce that he specifically wanted to keep it in that bloodline? Because we find out that both Catalina and Noemi are compatible.
Right.
Yeah, that's the weird
So that would imply that their blood is also like gloom good. But so that's what I took it was that Howard and his idea of eugenics was like, okay, we're compatible with the gloom. Our bloodline is compatible with the gloom because we are clearly superior, and thus I'm going to keep it in our bloodline, and then that's how we get the inbreeding. But then we discover because they don't have any more options, Virgil goes out, marries Catalina, and then they bring Noemi in too, when they realize that they are also compatible.
I think it's that idea is like it takes to a certain family, but then it was basically Howard who's like, I'm going to be an ancestral bastard.
It was Howard who kind of who put the eugenics angle in there. Maybe it does help bond to a bloodline, but he wanted to really keep it in the blood because he really wanted to make sure he maintained his immortality.
Okay, I just had a thought. And I could be entirely wrong, but it just kind of like occurred to me because we know that the original Howard found this like tribe or whatever that they lived with the gloom. They didn't necessarily use it to keep them alive, but they used it in their practices and in their health. What if it was their blood that was compatible because they were already living with the gloom, and original Doyle was only able to introduce his bloodline into it because he did marry one of them and had a child with one of them. So I'm going to make the assumption that then Howard was able, he probably maybe had some compatibility with the gloom because he had to obviously merge with it to transfer himself to the child he probably had with that first woman. And then has since been like,
yeah, maybe it's not necessarily his blood, but because his initial offspring.
Didn't they eat that baby?
Yeah, they did.
I think they ate that child so that the Doyle and the Doyle sisters, so that Doyle and the Doyle sisters would become one with the gloom, and then that's how they introduced it into their bloodline. I could be way wrong, but that's how I'm remembering things now.
Yeah, because this has got everything. It's got everything: incest, cannibalism,
body horror,
basically violent acts against newborns in terms of eating them,
crazy hallucinations.
Virgil gets very
handsy.
No, pretty much it's just like he tried to rape me,
like he vomited like bile into her mouth, and I'm like, oh,
that was gross. I was like,
does it when he's like completely naked? I'm like, oh god, this is like my worst nightmare. Like,
and yet the book is so good.
It was so gross. I was like, yes, I'm gonna throw up too. God damn it.
The thing I was going to say, though, earlier is like, I guess, the argument can be made that maybe it is a little bit of a delusion on Howard's part. We don't ever quite get the exact understanding of it. Virgil and Howard clearly know more about it. And Virgil is of the belief that it's not all about the keeping it just in the bloodline. We need to expand. And that's why when he dies, I will become the new keeper. I don't understand how that was going to work with Virgil. But I guess he was just next because they were all connected to it anyway. And besides, by that point, Florence had been killed. The only one kind of left was Francis. Now, but with Francis, Francis was actually born. His father was from outside the family, so he's not quite as inbred as the rest of them.
There's already like hints that Francis is. Other than his personality being a bit more likable, he's definitely much more likable as a person, but he's the one that picks her up. He has no problems. Well, not that he has no problems leaving High Place, but you realize that the rest of the family like never leaves.
Yeah.
Like they never leave. Francis is the only one that's like, yeah, I'll take you out. Yeah, I'll be. Well, I mean, he's trying to impress her, but he's the one who picks her up in the car.
Yeah. Do you think the influence was more lax on him though, because they knew nothing of value would be lost when Howard took control of him? Because that was the plan from the beginning. We all thought it was going to be Virgil, but then he's actually wants to take over Francis.
Wasn't it though that he was gonna go after Virgil, but then at the last moment Virgil was knocked unconscious, and so it was just there wasn't enough time to go drag his body?
Maybe. I was under the impression that Noemi had the realization that she had thought it was going to be Virgil the whole time, but really they were going to have it be Francis. And it was always going to be Francis.
It's hard to tell because in the moment, it's like, I mean, it would be more likely that Virgil would be the one to pass it on because he has the bloodline. He's
that's the more pure genes.
Exactly. Francis is kind of treated as like you said, he's kind of cast aside for the most part.
He's like an afterthought.
Yeah. He's just kind of abused. Like this is clearly someone who is like, no, you don't ever leave this house. You're never allowed to. So like when she's asking, like, you've never thought to like break a rule, he's like, no, why would I? And it's just like, oh God, I kind of felt that because
I mean, a boy's best friend is his mother.
No, it's not.
I'm kidding.
But it's more like, if he does break a rule, as he says, Howard is a god. And that's what he is. In that house, he is a god.
Right.
So he watches everything. So if he makes a mistake, Francis is fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I love how over the course of the book, you kind of find out why and how the whole thing works, how all the supernatural stuff works because of the just network of fungi and spores and everything like worked into the fabric of the house. And the reason they brought soil from England was so the spores were more conducive with that soil, and there was more of a guarantee that they would grow and spread instead of in soil they were unfamiliar with. And it's like, what? It's so well crafted, this whole setup.
The one thing I do like is, so one of Noemi's habits is she smokes, and they keep saying, don't smoke. And it's just like, okay, clearly it's a bad habit and whatnot, but it actually affects the spores. The cigarettes are actually like harm the spores. So that's why they don't want her to smoke. And it actually becomes like a tool for helping her, which is interesting to see. You rarely see that with like cigarettes or anything like that.
It does lead to the realization that ultimately you have to kill it with fire.
Mm-hmm.
What other characters? We got a long, weird family tree. We should probably talk about the quote unquote ghosts of the house.
Okay.
Too.
So first of all, this gets introduced early on because Noemi learns outside of the house, like because she's out and she talks to Marta, I believe her name was.
Yeah, Marta Duval.
Yes, and Marta's the one that's like, oh yeah, that house is cursed. Oh, why is that? Well, there was a bride that killed everybody. I'm like, excuse me? What?
Because everything.
So yeah, Ruth, who is Virgil's much older sister, discovered what was going on, and she just went on a fucking murder spree. Like and as a bride, by the way, she was about to get married.
I don't think it was so much that she discovered what was going on. It's just more that she definitely had to always have known. But maybe she was trying to rebel a bit in the lover that she found.
Oh,
yeah, she took a lover from one of the mine workers. It was Benito.
Yes, wasn't he like or two or something?
His uncle.
Yes,
was one of the original like people who led a strike, and he was killed.
Disappeared or no, he was killed.
That was the last straw for Ruth. It was like, I can't deal with this family anymore. And we learned later all the details of it. At first, it's just you hear about this bride who took a shotgun, killed her mother,
her uncle,
her aunt, and
her husband to be,
who was her cousin, and nearly killed Howard.
Later, it turns out she killed herself, but it turned out to be under Howard's influence.
Howard influenced her to do it.
No. I'm also wondering if, like, she killed the rest of her family because Howard was using them as shields.
Oh. I mean, the way that Noemi sees it in the dream is she sees her she sees her shoot what she describes as a living tumor. And at first I thought that was supposed to be Michael, but then I realized that was her shooting Howard.
Yeah.
And then when she goes to leave, she goes, "I'm not sorry," puts the gun to her chin and fires. And it's funny because like later Naomi has the presence of mind to like communicate in her dreams with Ruth, because Ruth's consciousness is still held in the gloom.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really cool when she started to figure that part out.
Mm-hmm. It was because early on you're like, okay, this is just a Gothic ghost story, but it's like more than that. Because you can call because it's like their memories, but are their memories like still them as a person? So they are still a lot like ghosts, but it's like on this like whole other level of like being this like amalgamation of just like all these like lives that have been sacrificed for fucking Howard's benefit.
Mm-hmm. And at the heart of it all is poor Agnes.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
That was so cool, that reveal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because for a while there, you're like, okay, I think I see what's going on. It's still horrifying, but I think it's like, wow, I can't believe that's quite a reveal. And then that happens, and you're like, holy shit, I did not think it would get any more fucked up and horrifying. I was wrong.
So she's the heart of it, and it all stems from from her.
Agnes is Howard's first wife.
And also
his sister.
I did appreciate when Naomi was looking at the pictures and thought about the concept of the Habsburg jaw.
That's actually really good. It's funny because I didn't realize. The Habsburgs are known for being incestual, and that's why they have this like prominent jaw. Mm-hmm. But apparently, Marie Antoinette is a Habsburg.
That's right.
And she doesn't have the jaw, but she does have a pouty lip. That's like a slight sign of it, but it just happened to work in her favor instead of,
the Habsburg lip.
Oh boy.
But yeah, so Agnes, she was essentially, after she gave birth, she was suffocated, buried alive, and this process somehow allowed her to be conducive to the spores. Like she was a sacrifice to the spores, and then her consciousness was what started the gloom properly, kind of in a weird way, or strengthened it in the area.
I think it was kind of like her consciousness is kind of like what tied the gloom together with like maybe the Howard or the Doyle bloodline.
Yeah.
Because it was like they were all connected to her, and Doyle was essentially controlling everybody through her.
Mm-hmm. So wait. Then that means he had no reason to fuck his sister if that's the reason they connected so much to the family.
Well, unless they were already involved with the spores when that happened, so it's just another way to make it even a stronger connection, because that control is pretty strong.
Oh man, so Howard just really had a thing for his fucking sisters. Jesus Christ!
Remember, it wasn't about.
I don't feel like it was so much his sisters. It's really just the bloodline.
It's all about the eugenics. It was all about the superior genes,
which is like a hit. Ugh, God.
It's white people. Am I right?
Yeah, seriously.
And keep in mind, this is set in 1950, so we're not that far removed from World War II.
Yeah.
And think about the. Ideas of superior races and bloodlines that were going on there.
Oh, God.
Ugh. So, it's very satisfying when we learn that the apparition of the golden-faced woman, or just the halo or whatever, is Agnes. Mm-hmm. Essentially, Agnes Doyle represented in the fungus, in the gloom. And it's so satisfying when Noemi, with the mantra, is able to, tell the sleepwalker to open her eyes and throw a big lantern in her face. And in proper Gothic novel fashion, the old decaying house burns down.
Woo!
And it's wonderful.
Oh my God. So actually, this is a question that we received, but you know what? I figured we should discuss this earlier. I'm not getting into questions immediately, but I figured I bring this up right now. So Latrune asked, I would like to know what is what is something Gothic horror, or what would be considered Gothic horror. So what I did was I went online and found, like, look over a bunch of different websites and basically to see what were the most consistent tropes that popped up. Like, what did different websites say that was the most consistent tropes that popped up for Gothic horror? And this book absolutely like hits every single beat. The one that
all right, let's play at home, everybody. Let's see if we can check all these off.
So the first one is mystery and fear, which is absolutely the case.
Big time.
Because we're trying to figure out throughout the novel, Noemi's trying to figure out what the hell is up with this family.
Yeah.
Why is Catalina like not doing
like
exactly
something? Like what is in this house is making everybody so weird?
And then fear or horror, like holy shit, it's the whole thing it's just horrifying.
Yeah.
And it gets worse.
All right.
Curses.
The Doyle family is cursed, said the woman with the parrot.
Oh yeah, that's basically the crux of it. They claim that the gloom is assisting the family, but it feels more like a curse than anything, especially from Francis's point of view.
Oh yeah.
Gloomy and decaying setting, but specifically that this setting is a character. A couple of them will say that of these sites would say, oh, it's going to be a creepy house. But for the most part, they said it could be just a gloomy and decaying setting. So,
well, High Place is very much a character in this story.
Oh my god, yeah. The house alone is definitely a character.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of description that goes into that house, especially with Noemi exploring it. And
was anybody else getting some serious Shirley Jackson vibes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, Silvia Moreno-Garcia admitted like she was inspired by Shirley Jackson. That was
so many people, and it's for good reason, because that was such. Oh, I love The Haunting of Hill House so much.
Supernatural element, or the quote unquote monster, which is the gloom, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got a bit of both of that, in that the supernatural element being the gloom and the monster being Howard.
That's true. Romance.
Francis gonna get some.
One of the most adorable things that I read was Noemi choosing not to kiss Francis early on, because she says she has no problems kissing men. Like, she often does it, but she found something so special about Francis, she'd rather hold off on it. And I'm like, that's so sweet. It's weird. Like, a non-kiss is so sweet.
Yeah,
so good.
They definitely had some like really like cutesy moments that I was just like, oh, you too, damn it, making me ship this.
Yes.
I love the moment when they're being, so they're going through with the whole marriage thing, right?
Yes.
And I love how they're at that moment, they're being forced to do this, and he just really gently asks her, "May I kiss you?"
Which,
like, what everybody else is forcing, and here's Francis like, is this okay? Can I just do that? Can I do this? And she didn't have to say yes. And it's everybody else is terrible, and Francis still cares about Noemi's consent.
Fucking precious cinnamon roll. I think one of the most endearing parts for me was when she's like, I need a weapon. Like, you have to get us a weapon. Like, I need a weapon. He's like, well, you can have my razor. And like, she realizes like, okay, razor's not really gonna do much, but he wants to help her feel safer, like so desperately, that he's like, okay, well, here's my razor. And then like, to kind of lighten the mood, he makes a joke of like, well, I hope you like bearded men. And I'm just like, why are you so precious?
And then of course the very end, when they're lying in the hospital bed together.
Oh my god, it's so goddamn cute.
She ends up kissing him 3 times, and each kiss is for a different reason. And at the end, that last kiss is for love. And I'm like,
yeah. I'm glad. I was not expecting such a like happy, sweet ending, and so like when we got to it, I was just like, oh my god, thank you. So very rarely do I feel just like so at peace with the ending of like something that I've like enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is it's a really good sign for the narrative. Sorry, not I realize we have more beats to go through, but I mean just it's so good. It's so good and so wholesome. The romance between these two that builds very organically.
Oh, absolutely.
That's definitely where I feel the most grateful, in that it did just naturally grow. It never felt forced. It never felt like either of them were like trying to reach that end goal. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's another moment that really stuck out to me where Noemi's like, you really are my only friend here, aren't you? Or you really do want to be my friend.
You really are my friend. Yeah, I think it was in that same scene where he was like, you can have my razor.
Yeah, it was the same bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's like he's not
I also like, so when he is, another part where I was just like in love with him was when she finds him, she's lost in the cemetery and she finds him and he's just like, I'm picking mushrooms. And like, you weirdo, picking mushrooms. And obviously there's like, we find a reason for it later. But I was at that point I had no idea where the book was going. Like the whole mushroom thing, I was just like, this book is very good at keeping its secrets until it's like ready to tell you.
Right.
Yes.
I kind of started to suspect the mushroom thing for a bit just because of the amount of mold that was described on the walls in High Place and in different places, just how damp and decayed the place was. But then there were so many other twists that threw me. And it was so satisfying. This is why we stressed so much that please do not listen to this without reading the book first, because all right. So, and that razor did come in handy because ultimately, by the way, this is great. Ultimately, it was Catalina that did most of the killing.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that was so satisfying.
Right? Well, okay, let's see. Let's go through a quick like pseudo body count real quick.
Oh my god.
Howard gets basically cut down by Catalina.
Yeah.
But then it's Noemi who finishes Howard off, and even then he doesn't die. He's going through like his death throes. Francis kills his mother.
Yeah, that's
trying to save Noemi. And then lastly, Catalina, again being a boss ass bitch, stabs Virgil Doyle in the eye with
How did the doctor go down again?
Huh?
The doctor?
He went down, but he didn't die.
He was just left immobile.
He was left immobile and probably was killed in the fire.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Same with the servants.
That's right. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah, because...
No, Noemi did kill the servant, one of the servants.
Yeah, she
did.
Who
are basically zombies.
Yeah, she did, because one of them tried to kill her.
Yeah, she had to, and that was also with the razor.
Yes.
So Francis's razor really came in handy.
Occam's razor.
Hey, Francis, it says Occam on the handle. Is this like? shh. I'm sorry. Yeah, tropes.
Actually, speaking of Catalina, damsel in distress, which actually David, when I mentioned damsel in distress to David earlier, and he said, "Well, doesn't Francis count as that as well?"
A little bit. I feel like Catalina.
I think it's more Catalina and to some degree also Noemi. Francis a little bit. I've been thinking about Francis as we've been talking as to like why he was like he like, oh, I can't go against Howard and like the family and the house and the gloom, in that like he was born in this place, grew up in this place, and like the people he answers to, like his authority figures, which is like his mother and Virgil, he's seen them go out into the world and still come back. So he's like, well, if the people that I answer to can't leave, how could I ever expect to leave? Like the most he can hope for is that one day he'll replace the doctor and like run the numbers in town. Like that is what he could hope to escape.
It's so sad.
I know.
Such a sad boy. That's why I loved him so much. I love sad boys.
I
like
think
sad boys. I like evil boys. I like big boys and inventive boys. Sorry.
I like all the boys. Francis especially, though.
Yes.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
My gloom brings all the boys.
My gloom brings all the sad boys to the yard. They're like, do you want to get possessed?
Oh my god.
So I think Catalina fits the damsel in distress even more so because she's the one that's always kept immobilized. She's the one that they're like, oh, she needs her rest. They try to keep Noemi away from her. And even their doctor, their quote unquote doctor, who is a relative of theirs, by the way.
Of course he is.
Of course he's a Doyle. Basically keeps her immobilized. And one of the ways that she does try to escape it is through basically a medicine that makes her sick. Like she's willing to almost kill herself in order to escape this.
Technically, the tincture only made her sick because it reacts badly. It reacts against the gloom.
Yes.
And so I think it was the gloom reacting negatively with the tincture is that what made her sick.
No, and I get that, but it still makes her sick.
Yeah.
It could kill her. So.
Well, it doesn't help that she overdosed on it a little bit that first time.
Yeah, she took like multiple.
I think it was like she was desperate to like regain some sense and control of herself that she took too much.
Right, yeah.
In that moment.
Oh boy. Poor Catalina.
Do we have more items off of what makes a Gothic narrative? Because I know we have a question in relation to the tincture that I...
Yes, just two more. One is emotional distress or intense emotion, or specifically melodrama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got plenty of that.
Absolutely, no question.
And then the other one, which is obvious, nightmares.
Yeah.
Which
real good one.
There's like a lot of chapters dedicated to Noemi's nightmares. So, damn. Yeah, let's
plot explaining nightmares too.
Do we actually just want to get into the questions then, or do
I think we can? Yeah.
There is a question about the tincture. Bringer has. One is like a 2 question, but one's a little bit like a comment / question. A thought I just had: the tincture that is used to repel the effects of the mushroom. Do you think it is a coincidence or something else that made it the right thing to repel the fungus? Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Okay, if I recall correctly, we find out that the tincture, or what's in the tincture that Marta made, is opium.
Yes.
I think it makes sense. It makes sense to me in the fact that opium, like I assume that Marta would, get it from like opium poppies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got the impression she's a very natural herbalist, medicine healer.
But didn't they also claim that it was Florence who said this is opium? Dr. Cummins said it was opium, and then they said, but it couldn't be opium. Martha doesn't have access to that. It was something else. It was some other natural remedy. But I mean, remember.
If it was, because you can get natural opium from opium poppies if you like cut and dry the milky stuff that comes out when you cut it. Anyway, don't. Anyway, the reason I think I agree with it that maybe it was opium. And maybe Marta doesn't really advertise that she has it, is because opium, like mushrooms, is a naturally occurring mind-altering substance. And so if you had, if you have the gloom, which is altering the state of mind to control it, and then another substance is introduced that also alters the state of mind, it's like 2 conflicting like substances.
It's like, hey, I'm the only one that deals with the drug trips around here, okay?
Yeah. And if, say, Catalina first approached Marta being like, well, I can't sleep, because that's what Marta said, is that she asked for it because she couldn't sleep or something like that.
Yeah.
Sleeping issues. The Greeks and Romans did use opium to cure insomnia, among other things.
That makes sense. I wish I could reread that bit. I mean, I got the book right in front of me.
I know. I do intend on, like, if I can't get a physical copy anytime soon, I'm gonna re-listen to the audiobook.
Yeah, there's so many details. That's why we're all like, wait, was it like this? And so it's
like there's like a lot of details that you like you're fed early on, like you're given, and you don't realize how it relates to everything else until later on. Mm-hmm. So I think this is definitely probably a good book for a second read or a second listen when you can like, oh, I get what that means now, or I get what, like, oh, that's, you know, hinting at this, you know, kind of thing.
And I think that's one of the reasons why it works as a mystery as well, because a lot of mysteries are like that. Like, oh, you're going through it and you're like, oh, I can't believe it was that, but that requires then another read, and you're like, oh wait,
it makes so much sense now. That's, well, you know, you have a good mystery when you can go back and like see where the pieces were falling together and the hints that you missed along the way.
Oh yeah.
Bringer also had another question. How do the theme of bloodline and skin color play into the ending? Is her will so great against the gloom, or is Agnes's anger so big that she is able to sense that the main character can help?
Maybe both.
I think it's a bit of both. I wouldn't rule one or the other out.
It's a cooperation between two women who have been, you know, one of them has been essentially abused beyond her lifetime, and the other is being lured into this, and the cycle's got to stop.
Yeah, I think, yeah, both is probably, yeah, like, again, these are two very...
Both is good.
Both. Yeah, so next question is...
we answered that one pretty quickly.
Sorry, I mean, it's...
You could also say, if I'll just throw on top of what into that maybe it was Agnes's, what was left of her consciousness wasn't so much trying to work against Howard, but that, like, in this brief connection that she had with the gloom, Noemi was able to, like, sense that anger and, like, learn from it, or like realize, like, what she needs to do from it. I don't know. I mean, think it was like
the buzzing and stuff, and
yeah.
And then, like, the other thing Noemi does that other people didn't really try to do is she specifically reached out and tried to communicate with Ruth.
Yeah. Okay. It was like everyone else in the Doyle family, and even Catalina, was like, don't look at her. Like, don't look at it. They didn't want to listen to Agnes and the buzzing and the anger, but Noemi did.
And this might just be... Because remember, they do say that Noemi's bloodline does work with the gloom. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that plays a part in it as well. And that's why she's able to hear Agnes.
Because she was more compatible than, say, Catalina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I guess worked against Noemi and for her at the same time.
Yeah.
Username 159 also asked a question. Thank you, username. This will probably come up in discussion, but did anyone guess remotely correct where the story was going to end up while reading? I certainly didn't.
I did not, and I am like, okay, like I did see, like, Virgil being like the villain. But aside from that, I was like, mushrooms, yes. All this body horror, yes. Agnes down below, oh my god, what? Like, all of it was one surprise after the other, and like, it was great.
Yeah, nothing but curveballs for a lot of it. Right. I thought I had a sense of it. I thought the only thing I thought was, like, there might be a non-supernatural or a non just this house is haunted and there are ghosts explanation. Wasn't quite expecting the network of mind-altering spores and fungus that also connects the family patriarch to an incestuous bloodline that he uses to, like, shed skin. And then there's the worm Ouroboros that's, like, the symbol, and, like, it's so good. Twists and turns.
The only thing I was able to guess for the most part was because it's hinted very well, it's like with the mushrooms and the mold and everything. I'm like, I was able to figure out, like, okay, this plays an important role. I think this does something, whether it's the realistic, it's the one causing everyone to hallucinate, and it's what's causing Catalina to hallucinate and make this whole family go, like, fucking insane, then it's that, or there's something magical about these spores. I knew it had something to do with that. I did not prepare myself for the craziness that would occur. Agnes was a complete surprise. I did not expect that to happen. I thought, like, okay, there's going to probably be a battle at the end. There's going to be a fight. They're going to escape.
I figured Virgil was going to show up at the end, but I didn't know the whole, like, oh, I planned this all along. And then Agnes was the biggest curveball of all.
Yeah. As well, I did not. I did expect Howard. I did expect Howard to be the jerk. Like, I'm like, no, Howard's an asshole. But there's no way around it.
But did you expect him to be like a horrible soul, possessing monster?
No, I just knew he
Black vial spewing.
Oh,
nope, that was all a pleasant surprise.
Ugh.
I knew he was going to be something really bad. Like I had a funny feeling like he's something bad's going to happen, and he's going to be the cause of it. But I didn't expect that bad. There was a part of me that was not hoping. There was a part of me that had a funny feeling that Howard might do something rapey to Noemi, and I hoped that didn't happen. Because there was a lot of hints about that. That and Virgil. I thought either he or Virgil would do something rapey. I'm like, please God, no. And it did get close, but it didn't happen, thank God.
I mean, it's still sexual assault, but yeah.
No, it is. But, oh God.
Well, it doesn't also help that there's the whole, mind control angle, too.
Yeah.
It's so problematic. I love it. Sorry.
It's problematic, but luckily the people who are would-be victims are able to stop it from happening, and that's what's important. The characters don't lose their agency to the point where something terrible happens to them completely. They fight back.
But by the way, even though a lot of this is our curveballs and we didn't expect it, this wasn't like a out of left field sort of thing. There were hints along the way.
It made sense. That's how tightly woven the narrative is,
Because I know there's points where you're like, oh my God, I did not expect that at all. But
it makes sense.
Yeah.
How did I not see it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. We got one more question. This was from Talos. Thank you, Talos. Thoughts on the tarot imagery? Did anyone else look up the meanings of the cards mentioned along the way? So he's referring to, there's a point in chapters 20 and 20, I believe, where Virgil is playing with tarot cards, and he puts down what's described as a knight holding swords and a page holding a coin. And I did look this up. One of them is the Knight of Swords, and the other is a Page of Pentacles. The Knight of Swords is supposed to represent big changes or opportunities coming ahead, or something that you've been wanting, that you've been waiting for will happen.
Mm-hmm. It could be like, it's like that ambitious, like you're focused on your goal, you're driven to succeed, you're gonna get shit done.
Yeah, and that's what the Page of Pentacles is too. The Page of Pentacles is someone that's represents being grounded and also being ambitious and going after your goals. So both those cards
I feel like the Page of Pentacles is more like that manifestation of that success, like the opportunity to. It's kind of like the. I see it more as the means, or just the reward of those pursuits.
It's the way it's worded is that he puts down 3 cards, and which is a simplified version of doing tarot cards. And if I recall, one is this is what your past, the middle is your present, and the last card is your future. Or it could be read here's 3 things that connect to you. It's a bunch of different things, but the most common one is past, present, and future.
Here's where you were at. Here's outcome A. Here's outcome B.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
And but only 2 cards are described, not a third one. So,
but the first card described makes a lot of sense.
Yes,
this is Virgil being yeah, everything's falling into place for me. Everything I've planned. Tonight's the night.
After looking at the meanings, for me, I'm not super familiar with tarot cards and never learned them. I never took the time to learn them. But the first card is is Virgil.
Yes.
It's definitely Virgil.
Yes.
But I feel like the second card represented Noemi, in that Noemi is being in, is that manifestation of that success. Like if they bring Noemi into the fold. So it makes me curious if maybe that third card would have spelled like Virgil's demise in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you flipped over the tower.
Oh God, the tower's like the worst card.
The tower is one of the worst cards you can get.
David's stepmom is a psychic, and
she knows she does palm reading, and she knows the tarot.
Mm-hmm. I also have a friend who is very good with tarot cards, like weirdly good with them.
I remember this.
Yeah, like there's been occasions where she's giving me readings, and she's like, "Oh, is your life like based off this card? Is your life like this, this?" And I'm like, "Okay, that's really creepy." That's for the rest of our questions. Do we have any final thoughts?
If for some crazy reason you listen to this without reading the book first, you need to go back and read this book.
This is absolutely my favorite book this year. Like, this is, oh my God. It was, like you said, this was everything I wanted in a horror novel that I've been wanting to read.
Keep in mind, this is coming from the fact that we've read a lot of really good books this year. I mean, the first 4 months were just let the right one in. So like,
oh yeah, that was good too. Fuck.
Oh my God, that's right.
So we have been on a roll this year with good books. Honestly, good books, good stories. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's saying something when we get around to, and this is new. This is like a new book. It just came out within the last couple months.
Oh, and then also there was that announcement, like literally right as we decided that we were going to read this book for this podcast, they announced that Hulu is going to turn it into a series.
Yes.
Which I'm so excited.
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I just need him to do my boy Francis justice. Like,
do Francis right and you're all set.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. Ooh, can we do like a little mini series where we like watch the episodes and get together to discuss them?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that.
Yes. I would do a review on that. Oh my God.
That sounds good. That sounds so good. All right. No, I think we all unanimously agree. This is a choice read. Pick this up, read it, enjoy it.
So for our next book that we're going to be reading,
for Spoopy Month,
yes,
the true Spoopy Month. It's October, baby.
Yes.
So we wanted to make sure we keep with the Halloween book, and we're keeping with the theme of reading a work by a person of color, and we will be reading Demon Theory by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, Stephen Graham Jones is a Blackfoot Native American, and Demon Theory is a story or a novel that takes place on Halloween night and actually was written as a literary film treatment.
Ooh.
So he's written a lot of works, like a lot of works, but this one was set on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I kind of want to read a Halloween book for.
No, I'm definitely for that. I think we had a couple other of his titles on our list as possible reads for the show, but I think because we decided, it's Halloween, perfect.
Absolutely. So yeah.
Any plugs before we leave?
Yes, we actually got a couple. Since we're speaking of Halloween, we ourselves have been celebrating since friggin' July, because why not? We have been doing the Boolympics, and we are currently in the middle of 2 challenges for the Creative Horror Boolympics, both of which are open to everyone. We have a costume contest that's going to be going on. The deadline for that is the 25th of October. Just email your photo of the costume you've put together for this year, because I mean, we can't really go out, but we can still dress up. Send that to Jessie Reyes at creativehorror.com. I'll be collecting those entries, and there will be a winner among the listener submissions, and then listeners will decide the winning team for the Creative Horror family that is also competing. So that's fun. Yes, working on your costumes because I'm a little behind on mine.
Yeah, we're a little behind on ours too, but
This year's determined to get in the way of our plans, but you know how it is.
Yeah,
we'll get it in on time. We will make sure to get it in on time.
We all love costumes.
So while the creative horror team will be entering into a costume contest, you guys get to enter into a story contest. Our third challenge is the Boo Olympic story contest, where the purpose of this is that you have to write a story based on an episode of a creepy cooking staff. The word limit for this is 1,500. And details about this can be found on the creativehorror.com. You can submit your stories to midnightmarinara@gmail.com. There is cash prizes. First place will be $50, second place $30, and third place will be $20. Make sure to enter in by October 30th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Coast Standard Time. So we will be judging your entry. So
all the details for past and current going Olympics contests challenges are all on creativehorror.com. Just head there and they're on the front page. You can just click there or just head to the creators blog. We hope you participate because we love the stories that you guys have submitted in the past, and we really want to see some cool spoopy costumes. So
I'm looking forward to this Halloween. There's a lot of fun stuff ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And there's an actual Midnight Marinara episode coming out at the end of October as well.
That's right. And just in time, as always, we bring the show back from the dead for each anniversary. October 30th will be our 7-year anniversary. And we have an original story that Kayla has written. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a lot of fun. We are still in the process of finalizing the script and casting it, and by the time we reach the 30th, we should have a good, fun, proper audio drama, chilling audio drama for you.
Mm-hmm. Also, to wrap up the Boo Olympics, we are going to be doing a live stream. We're going to be carving some pumpkins on stream, so that's another thing to look forward to. I think we're also going to be doing a patron Discord viewing of Over the Garden Wall sometime in October. So if you are a patron of Midnight Marinara or The Witching Hour, that gives you access to our Discord, our private patron-only Discord, and that's what we'll do our little fun viewing. Yay! Cool stuff. We're gonna make the most out of this Halloween, okay?
You bet your ass we are.
Was that mold always there?
What mold? Oh, hey, there's some gold. Are there flecks of gold in that mold? We really should have called an inspector. We should probably blow out the candles before it gets worse. Or maybe we should hold the candles up to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of want, maybe the smoke will help.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, take up smoking.
Oh, shit!
Protect yourselves from the mind-controlling mold.
Buenas noches.
Good evening, intrepid listeners. This is the Pasta Shade, the host of Midnight Marinara, and this podcast is part of CreativeHorror.com, a network of podcasts and creators working together to build a constructive community of horror fans. For more content like this, visit us at CreativeHorror.com.